We'll start with the broadcast section with no embargo, followed by an embargo section for 10:30 p.m. tonight. No live tweeting during the broadcast section, please, and phones on silent. James.
Ange, good afternoon. Final preparations tomorrow then before the season starts. What's your assessment on how everything's gone with the pre-season tours and this week with the welcome back of a few of your players too?
Yeah, it's been pretty good, pretty solid. Tour was good, well organised, kind of less disruptive than sort of last year's pre-season in terms of just training, and the games were really good. Each game was a little bit more of a challenge for us, and conditions were tough, but players got through it really well. And as you said, we got the internationals back this week, so we've had a really good week of training with them back. They help just with the quality and intensity of our training. And the key thing for us is that up to date, and we've still got sort of 10 days to go. We've put in a good sort of block of work, and for the most part, everyone is pretty healthy, which I guess from our point of view is the most important thing.
Do you feel in a better place going into this season than you did in your first season last year?
Well, I feel we're better prepared for sure, because this time last year there was still a lot of things happening, a lot of sort of comings and goings, and like I said, our pre-season tour was pretty disruptive, and we probably didn't have the games we wanted to, and it was a little bit of a leap into the unknown, whereas I think, as I said, it feels like we're better prepared. Certainly the training sessions have gone up a notch this year compared to last year, and that's because of player familiarity and the coaches we have. So I think everyone thinks they've had a fantastic pre-season, but until we get to that first game, none of us really know. But as I sit here right now, I think we're well prepared.
A transfer window in full flow as it is. I know you mentioned last year dealing with ins and outs, particularly Harry Kane, or you'd be welcoming him back tomorrow. Story this morning about Tottenham in advanced talks with Bournemouth over Dominic Solanke. Is there any truth in that? Is there anything you can add from your side? And is he maybe the player or the striker that you've been looking to bring in since Harry left the club last year?
I don't think we've been looking to replace Harry. I think I said a number of times last year, you can't really replace a generational player. There's a reason they kind of stand apart. But fair to say that's an area of the park, the front third, where we really believe we needed to sort of reinforce this year. We've been working hard to try and get the right kind of players into those areas that we need. For another challenging season ahead. Obviously, we're back in Europe, which means more games, and the one thing coming out of last year was that when we had disruptions in terms of injuries or suspensions, there was a real drop off, and we want to sort of try and mitigate that this year by having a stronger squad to cope with everything we do.
And finally, I'm sure others will maybe press a bit more on Solanke, but also reports about Emerson Royale's future potentially might be moving over to Italy. Is there truth behind that? Is he a player or is he a player in a certain area of the pitch that you have plenty of cover for, that you're willing to let go?
Yeah, look, I think me sort of speculating around these things, a bit like. It's a bit like the treasurer, or what do you call them here, the exchequer. If I speculate, stock markets could crash, mate, or in our world, Twitter or X, whatever, it could go in a meltdown if I start speculating about things. So, look, it's fair to say we've still got some work to do in the transfer window, and hopefully, those kind of things, they will get resolved. It's a little bit difficult for me because I don't have a control over that to kind of be definitive about it, but. Like I said, I'm hopeful that over the next sort of few days there'll be some resolution, both ins and outs.
Hi Ange, could I ask you about Richarlison? He's sort of one who, you're talking a lot about adding to the attack, but he's one who's maybe had an uncertain future, but he's come out and said he wants to stay at Tottenham. How do you feel about him sort of saying that, and where his future lies with all that's going on?
Yeah, I'm not really sure where the uncertain future comes from, not from my behalf. When he was fit last year, he played all the time, and he played well, but it was quite evident that when he was missing, we had to play Sonny in there, and we had to sort of cover areas. So this is not about sort of, replacing Richie or, for us, it's about adding to our squad. We want to get stronger out of every transfer window we've had, and from my perspective, I've seen Richie as part of what we're trying to build here. And like I said, last year when he played, he was very, very good for us. And hopefully this year we keep him healthy and he plays more. Having some more quality and depth in that front third hopefully means we can sort of protect our players a little bit more and cover their absences when they're not there.
And he improved under your manager, under your leadership last season. But do you think that he can still thrive if there's another, say, big number 9 like the profiles that are being discussed out there at the moment?
I don't see why that would hamper. I'd like to think that us being stronger as a team, I think every player who's here would want us to get better. I think if you want to be a club that challenges for trophies, you need to have a strong squad, and that means having good quality players all over the park. And I certainly, as I said, when there's plenty of evidence last year to show that our absences cost us a fair bit last year, and I want to try and mitigate that.
And is there also a type of player in your squad that sort of is facing an uncertain future? Maybe not Richie, but some of the other ones. Oliver Skipp's in that sort of category, maybe, and Maynard Solomon. And how are those guys dealing with it, and how do you sort of expect them to deal with it?
Again, I think a lot of those things are kind of also in the players' hands about where they see themselves and sort of what they want out of their careers. And I've always kind of had the same sort of thought process around these things. Where they're with us, they're with us, and that doesn't mean that things won't change, and you have to embrace that or accept that as a manager and as players that things change. But while they're here, and as I said, a lot of that will be dictated by the players themselves. I do think that depending on the individual players, they've got a career, they've got to sort of manage themselves as well, about whether they think that this is the right place for them to keep progressing. And I always respected the fact that a lot of these decisions also come down to them.
Jerry.
Hi Ange, could you just talk through the recruitment process a little bit? Obviously, I'm guessing it's quite a collaborative effort. You look at a lot of stats as well, but how important is the character and the temperament of the sort of player you want to bring in?
Yeah, really important for me. I think I've said that on a number of occasions that it's I guess the environment we want to build and even the way we play is fairly unique, and I think you need to be a certain kind of personality and character to embrace that. Obviously the playing qualities are paramount, but there's a lot of good footballers in the world. There's plenty of good footballers, and sometimes what differentiates them is the kind of personality and character they have, and I put great stock into that. It's not an exact science, to be fair, so it's not something that necessarily is data driven as to what kind of person they are, but I think there's a process that you can go through that sort of assures you that I've spoken about it before, is a big part for me is the motivation of why they want to come to us as opposed to anywhere else, and we kind of try and make sure that for the most part we try and get that right.
And obviously, a year into the job, what do you think the expectation levels are from the fans for this year, and obviously from yourself and the players?
I think the fans' expectations every year are that they want to see their club winning, and being successful. I don't think that necessarily should change or diminish just because of change. Particularly at this football club, it's a big football club, and it's been there or thereabouts for a very long time. So you'd like to think that our fans are optimistic about the season ahead, but for me, it still comes down to the basic core principles of we need to improve on last year, the areas where we kind of fell short, and build on the areas that we did really well, because what we do know in the Premier League is that the competition doesn't stand still. It's the teams ahead of us and the teams around us or behind us, don't stay in the same place necessarily. They improve. So for us, if we don't improve, we kind of lose ground from where we are. So we need to try and improve at a greater rate than the opposition, and that's what we want to do. We want to push on from last year, and if we can improve our football, be more consistent, I think it'll put us in a decent place.
last one from me. Huge game tomorrow at Bayern Munich. It's a glamour fixture, isn't it? Harry Kane will be there, you know, whatever part he'll play. But this time last year, he played his one and only game for you, scored a hat-trick. Did it sort of give you a glimpse of what a player like Kane can do wherever he is, sort of thing?
Yeah, I think he scored more than a hat-trick. I think I only got 4 or 5. And people questioning whether I could fit him into my system. So I reckon he did all right in that game. So, look, he's a quality player. And he proved that last year. You know, he went to the Bundesliga, broke records, he scored goals. Outstanding player. I mean, I hope it's a good day for him tomorrow in terms of before the game, not during the game. Because, you know, he's a generational player, as I said. And, you know, when these players leave clubs, sometimes it's not in a nice, neat bow where they can say goodbye and get acknowledged in the right way. So I'm sure our fans will definitely give him the welcome he deserves, and I'm sure he'll appreciate it tomorrow. Yeah, it should be hopefully a good day for him, like I said, until the whistle goes, and then hopefully we make it a bit more miserable for him.
I'll finish this section with Rob, please.
Hi, Ange. Just ask you for the latest on the injury front, and has Richarlison returned to first-team training?
Yeah, I mean, the main two actually 3 injury ones we had through the pre-season was Richie, Destiny and Fraser Foster. They missed the back end of last year, and they've all sort of come back at different stages, but Destiny's had a good 2-week block of training, so he'll play some part tomorrow, which is positive for us. Richie and Fraser have got back into training this week and have had both of them sort of had a good block of training. Won't feature tomorrow, but you know, with another week's training before the start of the season, hopefully they'll be in a good place. But they were the main ones. Everyone else, as I said, has had a pretty solid pre-season.
Those returning from the international tournaments, are they in a position to start tomorrow?
They'll play. It's probably not ideal, but you know, again, it's our only game before our first fixture, and yeah, they've come back in good condition. I mean, they've all looked after themselves. Again, they've had a good week of training, so they'll get some minutes tomorrow. Unlikely to sort of start the game, but we'll try and get some minutes more tomorrow, and then you know, obviously our first league game's on a Monday night, so we get a few extra days of training with them next week.
Alfie Devine's had a really good summer once again. Is the plan for this season for him to stay with the squad, or do you think another loan move's going to be on the agenda?
Yeah, we're kind of just have a look at it really closely. I agree with you. I think Alfie's had a really good pre-season. I think, again, you know, when we compare it to last year, he's definitely developed, and part of that's probably because he did, you know, play senior football last year on loan. So it's kind of, a lot of that will be judged by what sort of outs we have between now and the start of the season. I wouldn't want to sort of keep him with us unless I've really felt, you know, he gets some significant game time, because I don't want to stunt his development, because I think he is a player that could make an impact here at Spurs. But you know, fair to say him and the other younger guys, you know, Jamie Donnelly, Will Lancashire, you know, they've really made an impression, you know, with both the way they've trained and the way they've played games, and you know, we'll have a close look at sort of what the next steps are for them.
Thanks, Ange.
Okay, we'll move on to the Embargoed section for 10:30 p.m. tonight. Dom.
Kane and Dyer tomorrow, I think the club plans to honour them. You said just then that sometimes club legends or big important players don't always get to leave the way that they maybe deserve. How important do you think it is in modern football, as fast-paced as it is, that we do get a chance, clubs do get a chance to, and fans, to honour players who've been really good servants to clubs?
Yeah, look, again, like I said, it's a little bit difficult because it's such a sort of dynamic world we live in where things change. There's no doubt that, you know, if it wasn't for this game, at some point, you know, after he sort of hung up his boots, at some point, that Harry would get the acknowledgement of this football club he deserves. But, you know, that's the nature of football. You know, things move pretty quickly, and, you know, this time last year, as I said, he was playing for us, and then a week later he's going to Bayern Munich. So, but I think it is a good opportunity tomorrow for some, you know, for the fans and for Harry to really enjoy, you know, the occasion, and I'm sure, you know, he'll get the right sort of acknowledgement and appreciation from a fan base that, you know, adored him as one of their own.
You were a bit short in a couple of positions last season, for example, centre-back, which you addressed in January. How injuries that were suffered by important players, key players last season, have those impacted your kind of recruitment policy, transfer policy this summer, as well as sort of being numerically short in some positions as well?
Yeah, look, as I said, that was pretty glaring last year that when we had disruptions, be it injuries and some of them were self-inflicted with suspensions, that really struggled to maintain performance. And as I said, we signed Radu in January, which I think helped us enormously in terms of just making sure we've got really good sort of centre back options, irrespective of who starts. And some of our players, sort of hopefully having been through a season with us of the way we train, the way we play, are going to be more robust this year. So, and hopefully we can rotate a little bit more in terms of the starting lineup to protect some of them. But there's no doubt that what we've tried to do is this year is make our sort of squad more sort of resilient and more able to sort of tackle the challenges we're going to have.
And you did say that the club will continue to be in the transfer market in the next couple of weeks before the deadline. How do you feel that your squad is shaping up at this point in time in the season?
Yeah, we're in a decent position. I think there's been, hopefully, and there should be, because we're still a very young group, that there'll be improvement in even the guys that did very well last year. We had a lot of players who it was their first year in the Premier League or their first year at Spurs last year, and a lot of those guys are still very young, and our role is to make sure they keep improving, even though they set a fairly high benchmark. So I'd like to think we're going to be stronger this year just with the existing players, and I think the players we've added so far, certainly from my perspective, have given us some more, like I said, some more cover and quality in areas where we fell short. But we're not there yet. We've still got some work to do, and hopefully over the next sort of 3 weeks we kind of get the ones we want in, and sort of then have, I think we'll have a squad hopefully capable of contesting.
John.
You're obviously going to want to bring in a striker. Whoever it is it fair to say that they're going to have to hit the ground running? They're already made?
Yeah, to a certain extent, but I think I've always felt with those things that if you get the kind of recruitment right, then hopefully whoever it is hits the ground running. I mean, I'll give you an example. Like we signed Mickey van der Ven 3 days before the first game last year against Brentford, and we threw him straight in, and he literally hit the ground running, mate, pretty quickly too. So, I think if you get your recruiting right, then hopefully that's what there shouldn't be, because what we're trying to do is identify players who have qualities that will fit into the way we play our football. So obviously there's a little bit of an adjustment there, but hopefully they already have those kind of qualities that allows them to come into the group and contribute straight away. I think that's my expectations when we sign someone, that for all intents and purposes they'll be ready to contribute from the moment they arrive.
Is it also helpful that obviously that following Harry Kane is almost an impossible job? Is it helpful there's been a whole season of no Harry Kane? Is that going to take a bit of weight off the shoulders of whoever comes in to lead this line?
Look, I don't know, but I think I think we showed last year that we were still a fairly threatening team going forward, even without Harry, obviously. But as I said, when you're talking about a generational talent, he's never going to be replaced. But invariably, there's always those comparisons that will happen when you play. When you do follow a player like him. But I think it's pretty evident from people would have seen last year the way we play is we're never going to be relying on one player to sort of fill that breach in terms of goals. We're a team, hopefully, that when we're up and running, we can score from many different areas, through many different avenues, and hopefully that whoever the striker is that is playing in our system is a beneficiary of that, but also a contributor to it.
Was that one of the big positives of last season? You didn't fall into no goals, black hole, Harry Kane.
Yeah, because I mean, I spoke about it a lot. I mean, I said it's a fairly sizable hole to breach, and I'm sure it got referred to a lot more if we had struggles in front of goal. So I definitely, there's no doubt about that. And the fact that it wasn't mentioned as much as it could have been probably suggests that, you know, we did a pretty good job of, you know, collectively as a group, you know, making sure that, you know, we were still a kind of a threat in that attacking third.
Is it fair to say that the reason you let him go was because obviously a very experienced, very good, high quality defender? It's just not a highlight, is that?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I've spoken about this before. Like, when you come in, and when I came in, certainly there was a need for change. You know, you can't have change if I just kept all the same players together. There's a reason I came in, you know, and I think, you know, that there was a sort of group of players, core group of players there who had gone very, very close to having the ultimate success at this football club. You know, Champions League final, league runners-up. But I thought it was coming to the end of a cycle. And when it comes to an end of a cycle, you have to make those decisions. Now, Eric was coming to the last year of his contract. So, I mean, the first thing you do as a manager, or I think you do as a manager, is, well, what are things that are changeable? And, you know, you kind of look at contract situations. Okay, we had Hugo, we had Eric in the last year of the contract. The other guys, you know, coming in the sort of second last year of the contract. Okay, well, there's some opportunities, because if I don't move players on, I can't move players in. So it's not always a judgment on a player. It's more change. We needed to change, and I needed to move some guys out to create the opportunities to bring in Mickey van der Ven, Destiny Udogie, to get more game time for Pape Sarr, to do all these things that we needed to do. So, you know, it's not always a reflection on the player or their inability to sort of play my system. It's just change was needed, I felt.
Are you hopeful that you can get Solanke in time for the start of the season?
That would get me into that era of speculation, mate, which is very, very fraught with danger, so I won't go in there, mate.
I get the impression it's a long way down the line.
Well, yeah, look, it used to be, right? It used to be in your profession that you guys used to sort of double and triple source things before you actually... But it seems these days that doesn't exist, mate. People just can throw out any name, and I've got to be up here saying, you know, Tottenham are interested in Neymar, and I've got to come up here and say, yeah, well, no, actually, probably not at this stage where he's at and where we're at. So, like I said, I think if you're sort of in that mode of doing your research, I think you can get a pretty decent picture of where we're at.
Okay, and finish with George at the back, please.
Depending, it's all kind of on an individual basis of guys who, you know, I think, okay, definitely we need to get them some game time, and there's a couple in that boat who definitely need some game time, so, you know, they'll probably happen earlier. Others, you know, we might wait a little bit, because like I said, until we know exactly who's out as well, and that can happen right up until the end of the window. I mean, last year we had players leave after the window closed because certain markets are still open, so it'll be on an individual basis. Some will make a decision earlier, others will kind of leave until the back end of the window.
It's a big weekend for Mikey Moyes, going to turn 17 on Sunday. I mean, how kind of conscious are you of being excited about what he's doing at such a young age, whilst also trying to keep in an expectation of it?
Well, you know, I mean, I think that's something that, you know, Mikey, and fair to say, you know, it's incredible that he's 16, turning 17. You know, he handles really well, and you know, it's kind of part of the process of you know, when you're a young footballer, if you're going well, is how you handle all those things. We can't protect him from all of it. But he's been great. You know, we brought him into back in the last year into the first team environment. He had some injuries earlier in the year, but every time he played, whether it was with the 18s or 21s, he had an impact, and we're keen to have a look at him from a first team environment. So, and when we brought him in, you know, like I said, for a very young guy, he adjusted really quickly. You know, just the coaches, but the players, you know, their respect as well, which is a big thing, you know, in a first team environment. And you know, he's come back he obviously looked after himself in pre-season and off-season. He came back pre-season. He's done really well. He's done well in the games. He's done well at training, and it's great for this football club that he's somebody who's come through our academy and is already showing great promise. But he is still a young man, and he's still got some challenges ahead, obviously. But our role within that, like I said, is just to have the best possible environment for him to be the best footballer he can be.
Would you kind of hope that the forward is the player you look for this? Would you hope there's going to be someone in by the Leicester match on Monday week?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.